Hi everyone, welcome back to another Mums and Murder. Happy Valentine's weekend and welcome to next episode on the Couples Who Kill for our February special. This one is more well known. It's the Moors Murderers, and that is Ian Brady and Myra Hindley. I hadn't really went into this one before much, but I sort of come up and I thought, you know what, it's a couple, we'll have a wee look at it and I'll learn a wee bit more about it, and I did. It's quite sad, really. So yeah, it's let's just get stuck in. Let's just get stuck in and get going with it. So Ian Brady, he was born on the 2nd of January 1938, and Myra Hindley was born on the 23rd of July in 1942. Ian, he grew up with a single mother, Peggy, who was single mother, obviously, and she worked very long hours, leaving Ian on his own quite an amount. He already sort of started gaining a reputation for himself before the Moors murders happened. Even growing up, he was a wee bit rebellious. He was known to enjoy a horror movie or two, and this sort of led him into his teenage years where he would have dressed all in black and things like that, and he would have been known as Dracula in his younger years, and then as he grew into a teenager they called him the Undertaker because he dressed in all black long black coats, long clothes, so he was called the Undertaker. So that's really Ian in a bit of a nutshell, or Brady. We'll call him Brady through this. So that was really him in a bit of a nutshell. Myra, her upbringing was slightly different. She had mum and dad. Dad, he was in the parachute regiment in World War II, and then when he returned home he became a machinist. When her younger sister arrived, Myra actually moved in with her granny. Now, Myra was still very much loved. It wasn't a case of, oh, you need to move out. It was nothing like that. She was very, very much loved. It has been said that she was a bit rough and aggressive when she got into her teenage years, although people did use her for babysitting, and she would have protected the kids that she babysat, which I just find so odd that she had those feelings towards children when because you know what she done. It's strange, but it's kind of also rumoured that when her dad had a drink he was a wee bit aggressive, but it's a rumour. I don't know how factual or not factual that is. When she was about 15, a little boy that she babysat, he was about 13 at the time, he actually drowned in a reservoir, and this actually caused Myra a lot of guilt, because she wasn't there to protect him. So not sure if that unhinged something somewhere along the line, but that's what I say, when you know what she's done, it's so hard to see her in a different light. But those were her teenage years. So I suppose we all do grow and change and things when we get up a wee bit. So when she was 18, she started working as a secretary. And that's where she met Mr. Brady. He worked as a store clerk. He was a bit odd-ish, maybe we could put it that way. He would have sat and he would have read books on his lunch break and stuff. He would have read things such as Mein Kampf. Yeah, we all know what that book is. And he invited her out on a date. So she liked him, he liked her. He invited her out on a date to watch The Judgment at Nuremberg. He actually asked her out during an office party. So odd, but still able to fit in somewhat somewhat. But Myra, anyway, she was completely obsessed with Brady. I mean, she actually changed her whole appearance. The clothes that she wore, she changed her hair colour from dark till blonde. Obviously, because he was completely in with the whole Hitler theme and the whole pure race. So this was her way of trying to make herself more attractive to Brady, which is kind of weird in my opinion, but that's what she did. So she was also smitten and in love with him, but she was also a little bit scared of him. She had sent letters. She had a friend, and they would have wrote back and forth. And she sent letters to her friend, and actually said, "Look, if anything kind of happens to me, perhaps police should maybe have a wee look at Ian first, or Brady first, because he'll probably have something to do with it." Which again, if she knew that and she had those feelings, like that's the time. That's the time to step away. It really, really is. But yeah, so that's sort of them in a bit of a nutshell. Brady was also very, very, very open with her when it came to his likes. We'll put it that way. She would pose for pictures for him. And she posed different clothing and different poses, postures, positions, sorry. And then he got very open about his fantasies, and which was child abuse and murder. So that also would have been the time to leave. Maybe phone the police. Let them know he's worth a watching. Yeah. But she didn't anyway. So because Myra obviously was still completely obsessed and smitten with Brady, they decided, she was like, "I'm on board for this, let's do it." I don't know, maybe she got fed up posing for herself, I don't know, but she was totally on board with this whole let's do it. And so in July of 1963 they started planning the perfect murder, as they called it, which is horrible. So that moves us to the 12th of July, and a young lady called Pauline Reed. Pauline, unfortunately, would be their first victim. Heartbreaking. So Pauline was 16 years old, and she was getting ready for a party, her first dance, should we say, her first dance. And she was getting ready, and her mum was helping her get ready. Her friend was supposed to go with her, but at the last minute her friend cancelled and couldn't go. So I think her mum was a bit like, I don't really want you going on your own, but she had another two friends who said they were going to go, and she said, okay, you're going to meet them there, that's fine, you can go. Her mother helped get her ready, put a necklace on, helped her with her shoes, helped her with her hair, just as you do when you're getting your kids ready to go out for their first party or dance or whatever, disco, whatever they want to call it these days, just as you do. And she walked her up to the end of the road, said her goodbyes, and that was the last time that her mother or seen Pauline alive. 16. Anyway, what would happen is that their plan, so Ian and Myra, their plan was she would be in the van and he would be on a bike behind, and whenever he seen someone he liked, he would flash the lights. Myra's role was to get out of the van and lure the child in. So along comes Pauline walking up the road, and she happened to actually know who Pauline was because Pauline went to school with her little sister. So Pauline knew who she was, she knew who Pauline was. So obviously this is just perfect. She had said, Pauline, look, I will give you a lift to the dance if you come up the moors and help me find this really, really expensive scarf that I have lost. Pauline, being 16 and probably a little bit naive and probably feeling, yeah, that's okay, you know, she's my friends, or the girl I go to school with sister, nothing's going to happen to me. Got in the car and went up to the moors, and unfortunately for Pauline, so did Ian Brady. So Ian followed behind, and they got up and they got up to the moors, and they got out. They were pretending to look for this. Sorry, I said scarf, but it was actually a glove, and there was no glove. At this point, Myra told police that she had left, and Ian had come in, and he murdered Pauline at that point. He came back up to the van fort with a spade, and she went back down with him, and she seen Pauline, and she said that Pauline's vocal cords looked like she had two big massive cuts on her throat. She asked, he had sort of cut her vocal cord along with slicing her neck. She apparently asked Brady, had he assaulted Pauline, and he said, yeah, of course. This was the whole point. So then they buried her, and off they went. She says that she was in the van for the whole attack. Brady says that she was there for the whole thing, so who knows what story's true there or not. The sad thing about this whole thing is that Myra Hindley knew Pauline's mum, knew her very well. They knew her to stop and knew her to speak to, and when Pauline had been missing for so long, and she would ask her, like, how is she? I'm really sorry. Not how is she. Obviously, she didn't ask how is she. She would ask, how are you? Any updates on Pauline? Blah blah blah. Showing concern, knowing the whole time that she had actually murdered poor Pauline, and knew exactly where Pauline was, knew that she could have helped, even put this poor girl to rest and put this poor mother out of all the worry. I mean, it was years before Pauline was found. And I remember watching part of a documentary, and her mother would have said, she used to do like Avon, and it used to be when you knocked on the doors for Avon, and she'd have been waiting to see if it was Pauline who'd opened the door. People on buses used to think she's seen her, and just heartbreaking to go your whole life thinking, I'm going to see my daughter, she's just going to walk down the street, she's just left, she just ran off, something happened, she just ran away, never getting that chance to bury her or say a proper goodbye. I just think how evil that you're standing there face to face looking this woman in the eye and being like, hey, I'm so sorry about your daughter. Like, sick, twisted. She's bound to have got such a sick, twisted little kick out of that. She just has to have, like, how or why else would you do such a thing? I just, ugh. Anyway. So we'll move on to victim number 2. He was John Kilbride. He was born, this was on the 23rd of November 1963. So still in the same year, from July, August, September, October, November. So a few months down the line, they waited. That's so nice of them. Before they decided that they'd actually got away with the first one. Let's move on to the next one. So yeah, this poor little John, he was actually at a market in Ashton-under-Lyne. Again, they offered John a lift, claiming his parents might worry with him being out so late, and they also promised him a bottle of sherry. Random, but sure. And John, he got in the car. It's just sort of the same MO. He got in the car. They said, "Let's go and look for this very expensive glove. Can you help us?" And up to the moors they went. John went with Brady to find the glove, where John was then again assaulted, and he tried to slit his throat, but he couldn't, and he ended up using his shoelace to strangle him to death instead. Buried the body in a shallow grave, and then again just wandered off back into the world as if they'd done nothing. Again, similar documentary John's mother was on. She managed to recognise John's clothing because she had stitched it up and mended it and things, and she knew it was his stuff, and that's how she identified John. I just think that's so sad. I just think that's so sad. But the most heartbreaking thing, but one of the clever things, I have to admit, one of the things that actually helped them find John's grave was that Myra had actually posed for a picture on top of his grave. Wait, you couldn't see his grave, he was buried, but she had her dog and she was posing in a coat. I should see if I can find the picture. I'll put the picture in. She was posing it with her coat, dog inside her, I think it was inside her coat, and yeah, that's how they identified. So one of the detectives, he got this picture and he like scanned the mirrors for things that looked like similar, placement wise, and that's how they. I just find that really very, very clever detective work. I'm sure it took hours and hours and hours to do, but that's how they discovered him. I just think that was amazing. Like he's saying a picture of Myra Stanton holding the dog, because obviously they were very big into their photography, these two, and he went right, but she was standing on top of poor John's grave, posing with. So she was so heartbroken by the whole ordeal and so controlled by the whole ordeal that she brought her dog up there and they walked, and she got her picture taken. Could have possibly been just afterwards, you know. Who knows with these two? They're just so sick, twisted individuals. So their third victim was Keith Bennett. Poor wee Keith. Keith was 12 years old. He had dinner with his family, and he was going to his grandmother's. He left. His mom and his sisters were heading out to the bingo. He left at the same time. His walking down the road, and his mom happened to they met somewhere similar, like crossing the road somewhere, and she says to him, "Be good," and then they went their separate ways. And Keith never made it to his grandmother's because Brady and Myra, they pulled up and they asked him if he would help load boxes into the back of the van, and Brady was sitting waiting in the back of a van with him. So slightly different with Keith. Hindley followed them down to a gully. She was kind of the lookout where Keith was killed. They took a photo of him while he was being assaulted, and then they buried him out on the moors. So they did take him up to the moors, but there wasn't this whole let's go find a glove thing. There wasn't, you know, they knew what they were doing at this point, really. I think that's more to the point, or maybe they were just bored of doing it their old way. Asked him to help pack the van, which he did. Took him down into a gully part of the moors where Brady killed him and assaulted him and took pictures of it. And then they buried him. And Keith is actually the only victim that they never found. Keith is still buried somewhere up on the moors. I think his mother has passed now, I think, and she never knew, she never found her son. And that was her goal. Her goal was to find him, and she never did. Never found his body. She never found his body. And I think his brother is probably still looking. It's so sad. So sad. They did to them poor boys. And girls. And girls. I think it's boys, because it was girls too. So, victim number 4. This is a little bit harder. Victim number 4 was Leslie Ann Downey. And this was on the 26th of December in 1964. And Leslie had told her mum that she was going to the fun fair with a woman and her kids down a few doors down. And her mum said that was fine. Obviously, stay with them, come back with them, be safe. No problem. And off she went to the fun fair, having a good old time. And along comes Brady and Myra. And they were out shopping. And they had dropped some shopping bags like in front of her or around her. So, being like, oh, these are so heavy. These are just so heavy. We can't carry them. I know we're young and perfectly able, but we can't carry them. So they asked this little girl, can you help us carry our shopping to the car? Of course, Leslie, being the sweet little 10-year-old girl that she was, helped carry all the groceries to the car. And again, Leslie was slightly different because they took Leslie back to Myra Hindley's house. Now, that's just horrible what they did to that poor little girl. It's just horrible. So they undressed her, they gagged her, they made her pose, they forced her to pose in certain positions, they photographed her in these positions before she was raped, and then she was murdered. They actually recorded this, and you can hear her begging on an audio tape with Myra and Brady. Like, she just wanted her mummy. She just wanted to go home to her mummy, and she wouldn't tell anybody, and she just wanted to go home. She never got home. Just heartbreaking. She was then taken back up to the moors, up Saddleworth Moor. I think probably I should have mentioned that earlier. She was taken up to the moors and buried. She was buried with her clothes were at her feet. They just left. These children were just disregarded. Half naked, no clothes, or clothes left at their feet, and shame on these human beings. They're not even worthy of being called human beings, but shame on them. So when Leslie didn't return from the film fair, her mum obviously started to panic, and her brother went out to look for her. Couldn't find her. He knocked on neighbours' doors. He went to the neighbour, and the mother actually she'd went, but all her friends had come back. She still was nowhere to be found. He then had to go home and tell his mum, oh, I can't find her, she's nowhere to be found, but all these other people have come home. So panic ensued. I am well sure panic ensued. Also, while Myra and Brady had little Leslie, at one point Myra apparently told the police, she was very covered in blood and she ran a bath and washed her, but she was already gone at this point. Myra says when she went to run the bath, she was alive, and when she came back, she wasn't, but they washed her and cleaned her down and wrapped her in a sheet, naked. She was still naked. Her wee clothes were lying. She just disregarded. Like, I don't care if you bathed her. Who cares? Like, what did you bath her just so that the blood wouldn't leak everywhere? You know, that would be more my thinking. I just don't. Oh. So that's what happened to poor little Leslie. Apparently, Myra is quoted in saying that they went like lambs to the slaughter, quietly with no questions, but not little Leslie. Leslie, she fought for her life. She fought hard. She did not want to die. She did not want to be there. She, you know, even after being raped and whatever, she still was fighting with them and being like, look, I won't tell anybody. I just want to go home to my mum. I just want my mummy. And as a mother, I imagine hearing that audio tape just broke her heart, because it breaks my heart and I don't even know them. So as I can only try and imagine what these poor parents went through when their children just disappeared. And these two human beings are walking about the place, just no regard for tiny little lives whatsoever. Horrible, horrible humans. But that was little Leslie. This moves us swiftly on to victim number 5. Now, Edward Evans, and this was on the 6th of October in 1965. So, Brady met Edward Evans at a railway station, the Manchester Central Railway Station. He was actually 17, so he was a good, well, apart from Pauline, he was a good jump older than the rest of the children. He was grown, really, at this point, you know. So Brady met him, and Brady was taking him back to hook up, and he introduced Myra as his sister, which is okay, and they took him back again. I think they're getting a wee bit cocky at this stage, I'll not lie, because they took him back again to the home, and Brady went in with Edward, and they were having a few drinks or whatever, and then Brady told Hindley to go and fetch her brother-in-law, Smith. I think Brady and Smith, nobody liked him either. Nobody liked Hindley's brother-in-law in the family either. So Brady and him kind of got on, because nobody liked being Brady either. So they kind of got on, and they were sort of built up a bit of a friendship. But nobody liked Smith either, because he also had a bit of a criminal background. So that's probably why Brady thought he was a safe person to have. So he had to give him something or something along the line. So anyway, she went and got him and brought him back and was like, you need to wait here until I tell you you can come into the house, which is odd because you came and got me to go into the house. But there was anyway, there was a bit of a kerfuffle going on inside the house. Obviously Edward, he was also fighting for his own sanity in life. But there was a scream, and then everybody came running in, and at this point, Hindley was over the top of Edward, and he was like naked at this point, but like on the couch with his head back, but he was on the floor, if that makes sense, sort of facing forward. So Brady was like over the top with the hatchet over his head, and he wanted to hit him. In the process and in the struggle, excuse me, Brady had managed to actually hurt himself. like he twisted his ankle or something really silly. But yeah, so he murdered Edward in front of his brother-in-law. But Brady was too injured and they couldn't move the body that particular night. So Smith was like, right, I'll come back in the morning with my deceased child's pram, should I say, and we'll move him up to the Moors End. So they wrapped him up, put him in the spare room, locked the door, and just kind of forgot about him. But Smith, I didn't really look into what his criminal background was, but I don't think it was murder. Because he was very uncomfortable with what had just happened. He went home. He got his wife to make him a cup of tea. He threw up, and then he sat down and explained everything in detail to his wife of what had happened. This is about 3 a.m. in the morning. So what happened was Smith and his wife, which is Myra's sister, they waited until sort of daybreak. They armed themselves with like a hammer and a screwdriver, walked to the nearest payphone and rang the police and told the police exactly what had went on. Police came to the door, knocked, let us in, So eventually they let the police in, and the police, they go around and they're trying to get into the spare room at the back, and Myra's trying to hold them off, and Brady is just sort of sitting there as cool as a cucumber, couldn't give two flying flirts what was going on. And he's like, you may as well just let them in. But like, we're caught now type of thing. Like, yeah, we're caught, big deal, may as well just let them in. Obviously the body was still in the back room when they let him in, and that's when they were both caught and arrested for murder. So yeah, they all also then, that's when everything started being pieced together, and they had lots of evidence. There was audio tapes, there was pictures, there was exercise books, and you can hear, as much as Hindley likes to say, or Myra, as much as she likes to say, she was in the background of it all, just kind of on the sideline, but involved, but not so involved. On the audio tapes, you can hear she was very much involved, very much a very willing participant, a wanting participant, and not how she would have liked to have been portrayed. So police, they, like I say, went through all the pictures. That's where they found poor little Leslie. They found pictures of Myra on the moors holding her dog, sat over the top of graves. So they knew the bodies they knew that they were in connection with those children. And obviously we all know it took them a long, long time to find the graves, to the point that they were actually giving up. You know, it was a dangerous place to look at that point. I think the weather was quite bad. It was foggy and mizzly and rainy, and you know, the moors are massive, sort of desolate area, hard to find things really. So they had a massive manhunt, did everything they could possibly think of. They put like metal poles, I think it was metal rods that they put in. I think that was to try and help like find the bodies. It's something they did. It was, I'm not entirely sure the process, I'll be honest, but they did it anyway. They did everything, and they got last minute. They were like packing up. All the policemen were just clearing off the moors. Everybody was starting to pack up, and one policeman had to go to the bathroom very badly. So he was taking himself back up the moors to have a little tinkle, and he just happened to be walking over like a puddle type thing, like a marshy bit, and he just happened to look down, and he seen something that sort of looked like bone, and that was it. He had found the first grave, And this just also kind of amazes me. You know, literally they were done. They were done. That was they were not going back up there. They had done all their searching. They had manhunted everywhere. They had done it all. They were not coming back. And there he found them. Right down to the last second, and that was little Leslie's body, I think, that they found. They were able to connect Leslie with Myra and Brady because the headboard on the bed, so it was a pretty plain room, but they could see like this tiniest little bit of headboard, and this little bit of headboard matched the headboard that was on the back room. So that also, that sort of detective work also amazed me. Just the little bits of things in this just really, like, amazing. They had, there was no DNA. The computer system wasn't, like, it's not the way it is now, where it's progressed so much that it's a lot. They have more things to support them and help them figure stuff out. Not that they can't figure it out on their own, that's not what I mean. It's just that, there's more DNA, which helps get you there that wee bit quicker, which they didn't have back then. And they were able to just, such little things that they were able to get these two and get them off the street, and no more children were going to be murdered and assaulted by these evil human beings. So Brady and Hindley both got life, and Hindley also got 7 years for accessory after the fact, although she was very, very much a very willing part of the whole process. Absolutely, the two of them were in it together from day dot. It's just another shape of another two human beings who should not be next or about each other at all in any form or shape. Although all these couples kind of have that similar little theme, really, these two people shouldn't really be together, but those two definitely shouldn't. Now, I know I probably didn't do that very good justice, but that is it in a bit of a nutshell. There is a lot of documentaries out there. I watched a few. They are really good viewing if you want to watch them. They give a lot more from the parents, and it's very heartbreaking to watch the parents who have suffered through the years, and even to when that point of the documentary was being made, were still so heartbroken over their children, and as you would be. But yeah, they're very good documentaries out there. Those poor victims, poor children, just going about their day, and just because Brady liked the look of them, that was literally it. Evil human beings. But again, I hope I did a little bit of justice. Hope I maybe brought it to your attention a little bit more. It's not a newish one. It's one we've all heard of, but again, I hadn't really delved into it too much, and now I know. So any other suggestions that you would like me to look into, please don't forget to pop a wee comment down. Maybe hit that like button or subscribe button. And I shall see you in another week, and have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you later. Bye.